Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of For the Minions. I'm your host, the one and only Man Goose. Joining me today, as always, are my two co-hosts, my two co-hosts, starting with the lovely Mandy Mal
What's up, everybody?
and the dashingly handsome Arrg the Pirate.
How's it going, guys? And I even have my pirate goatee
Oh,
ready to go.
nice. So before we get into it today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go over the Core's proof of concept. This is not the normal For the Minions that we do. We'll still be doing that one, but today is going to be all about the Core proof of concept. Before we get into that, though, I want to go over some legal stuff because I've been seeing a lot of stuff amongst the various discords saying that Metabuff is not incorporated. It's a scam, you know the whole scam stuff. So I looked it up. They are incorporated. They're based out of Delaware, I think it is, but yeah, so they have taken the initial steps to get on the PS4. Now, a lot of people also seem to think that because they posted that picture at the end of their first POC of the PS4 user agreement that they are automatically going to be on PS4. That also is not true. So what that is pretty much the equivalent of accepting the terms and conditions. So yes, they have incorporated, and that is a big step towards publishing on PS4, but no, they do not have a PS4 dev kit yet. So I just wanted to get that out of the way and settle the air on that one before we get into it. So before now, the proof of concept, I want to kind of go around and get all three of our perspectives on the overall proof of concept, not just the then after that we'll go through one by one on the videos. So Pirate, what was your overall takeaway from the proof of concept?
Well, I kind of talked about it the other day in that last video, but I had a roller coaster of emotions with the proof of concept out of Metabuff. The first video, guys, I was pumped. I was pumped before the first video even came out. I was so excited, and then we got to see, everything, and then as they kind of progressed, I was confused about a lot of things. Certain things didn't make sense to me. There were just a lot of elements that I wanted to know, and they weren't really explained well enough. And, the format of the videos was kind of off in certain things, and, sometimes it was awkward. Like, we got to see a full progress. The very first video was spot on. The second video was just kind of awkward and weird in some spots, and then it got better. And then the very last video, which I thought personally, my opinion, was one of the better ones because it seemed like it was a lot more structured and they explained things very well. But I believe it was something like a 12-minute video, and I think it could have been wrapped up in a sentence almost. So it was. I definitely would say a roller coaster of emotions through all of it.
Mandy, what did you take away from the proof of concept?
Well, I think coming from a much more casual background and having a more casual understanding of everything, I don't think I was I don't want to use the word disappointed in case I don't want to put words in y'all's mouth, but I was more excited about what I was hearing, I think, than maybe you guys were. But like I said, that could be because of my casual understanding of everything. I do, however, agree that, like, honestly, the first video where they showed us nothing but the our first look at the maps, and then just seeing the heroes again had me the most hyped. And then every one after that, I was kind of a little less. It was like a little bit, disenchanted every single time. Especially the jungle one, I was just like, I don't even understand what's going on here. That was a difficult video for me to make for my coverage of it on my YouTube channel. Shameless plug. Yeah. So I agree with what Pirate was saying, that it seemed like every episode got a little fuzzy, more fuzzy every single time. But my overall thing was, I'm excited. I'm excited to have this game back, and I think I'm most excited that they are going to listen to us, to the community. So I kind of have that in mind, and that this was a proof of concept. It was just a lot of ideas being thrown at us, and that they are going to listen to us. So that's what's got me the most excited.
That's a good takeaway.
What about you, Mongoose? What
Yeah.
what are your opinions about just the POC in general?
I've settled down in my views of the proof of concept a little bit. I still think the proof of concept videos were a failure. I think that was a failure on Metabuff's part. However, like I said, I still think the game is going to go really well. But the proof of concept, it felt like, if you've ever seen the movie Hot Rod, where Richardson is handing out flyers, he just takes like a stack of 50, just pitches them at people's faces, and then starts dancing and celebrating. That's what it felt like. It's like, here's all these concepts, ha 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 ha, and then they run away.
Definitely.
It's like, come on, man. But like I said, though, I've calmed down a little bit. I really took a look at what they were trying to get across in the proof of concept, and the common thread that you could pick up throughout all of these videos is they're really going for a game where that is fully customizable to your taste. Not just the UI being customizable, but the way you play your hero. Everything from being able to choose the battle spells or relics, or however you want to call them, at the start of the game, to the questing talents that improve each hero and change the way each hero plays. So I think it's kind of a lot of unique customization going on with them. I think that's a good focus for them. I think going forward, it's going to make a really great game. So I'm still very, very excited about Core, and the proof of concept at least delivered that to me, if not actual proof of the concepts. So that was my takeaway from the proof of concept.
And I think that's probably a very good way to look
Yeah,
at it.
I think that's very fair.
Because there were I think there's a lot of people out there that, we would all like a carbon copy of Paragon, but at the same time there are things that could definitely have been improved, and I think it looks like Metabuff is trying to do exactly that, and come up with new ways that you can really be attached to your hero, and I think it's definitely worth exploring at the least. So yeah, I think that's spot on.
So let's go through video by video. First was the first proof of concept was really just an introduction to the game, and that they were going to do a proof of concept. So there's not a lot to talk about there, but I mean, there was some cool stuff in there. Like, we got to see some of the unreleased skins from Epic actually in action a little bit.
Yeah, the Countess skin, the Grux dragon skin, the Crunch jet fighter skin.
I think Kalari had
Kalari had kind of a newer one. The Power Ranger Ninja. So yeah, we definitely got to see some really cool skins. That was definitely
Murdoch
there.
Had a cool one.
Oh yeah, his like Mad Max skin.
The Drongo Outlaw.
Yes. Yeah. That looks sweet.
There were some really cool skins. It had some awesome music playing in the background, and just kind of hype music, and
yeah. That was a good hype video. I think that was a good one to get everybody hyped. Just maybe to keep the hype.
Yeah. They didn't have Richter, so I didn't give a fuck. Moving on to POC number 2. So for the proof of concept for the number 2, yes, I'm reading off a list. Don't give me no shit. Don't give me shit, guys. So we had the map design with the hero reworks. Towers are going to be more dangerous. The 2v2 lane and the 1v1 lane, that's an interesting one. Buffs and wardens lanes that will be big enough for the team fights, and the rotation times balanced for fighting, and they tease some other game modes. So the one thing I kind of address first probably, and is the 2v2 versus 1v1 lane. A lot of people know I'm a huge supporter of the 2v1, even though it doesn't work. It is broken as fuck. Any good carry and support combo will roll over a good offlaner, but I'm going to miss the 2v1 lane. No.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Mandy.
I was just going to say, do you think, based on anything that was in the proof of concept, they're going to do anything that is going to make it impossible for people to play that way? Or
absolutely, as it's set up right now, there is absolutely nothing stopping you from going whatever the fuck you want.
Right. Yeah,
it's going to be like,
it may not disappear completely.
Yeah, like Legacy, the only thing that really made the 2v2 lane was the red buff was good for the ADC, but people didn't care. People just went over wherever lane they wanted to. There's no driving force. There's no distances between the towers.
Well, you also had where, like, the dunk spots, Prime was on one side. You had the Harvester that you contended. I think the way the structure of the map was, it encouraged you to play the 2v2 lane because you were closer to these things. And that's kind of the way I see Core right now. I do think the towers need to be changed. I think we all three kind of said, hey, y'all need to do something more with the lanes. And it sounds like they were working on changing the jungle, which we'll talk about that later. But it sounds like there will be things that they do to distinguish the lanes a little bit more. And, you get that gold economy buff as opposed to just a sustain buff. But again, I think if you have the option of, like, okay, me and Mandy go against you, Mongoose, in a 2v1 lane, even though,
you would lose.
Every time.
But, like, say we just go to the solo lane. We're like, hey, we're going to double stack the solo lane, even though we're not supposed to, right? We would just roll over you. And then win that lane, and then, hey, that frees us up to go elsewhere. But the same thing could be said in the opposite lane, is, our solo player that's now in that lane, he's going to be rolled over as well. So I think hero balances and things like that need to be changed. But I definitely want to see something more done with the towers. I think the towers positioning would help out a lot. Taking that kind of page from Smite. I like how there is a big distinction in between those two lanes. So we'll see about that. But again, I really do think Metabuff is listening to all of our feedback, and I have a feeling that they're going to, encourage us to play in a 2v2 lane instead of discourage us from playing in a 2v1 lane, because that's what Paragon did.
So what do you guys think about the what is it called? Or they call them the wardens, the buffs that spawn in mid lane? Those are far more centrally located than the river buffs were on Paragon. What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Mandy.
I know if I continue my pattern of playing support and carry, I'm not going to fuck with them. They're not going to be of any interest to me. I very rarely played mid lane. I was not good at it. It was like if I was like 5th in the draft and support and carry got picked, I was like, well, shit, I got to play mid lane now.
Draft dodge.
Yeah. So yeah, right. So I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? You guys are definitely more experienced. I might glean some better information from you guys about the strategery behind that.
Strategery.
That's my word.
It looked to me like they were on a raised platform. I think it would be a little cooler if they dropped them down to make it a little more of a dangerous venture to try and pick up the warden for the mid laner. And it's definitely going to be, the mid laners picking up this buff. I don't see the junglers. The junglers, I mean, some of them will be able to hop up and take the buffs, but I think it's definitely meant for the mid lane. I would like to see it either widened out so they're kind of midway between the two lanes, or drop down, something like that.
Yeah, I like the idea of, like you said, maybe being a little wider out or something like that. But maybe that's just because that's what it felt like in Paragon, and I am kind of looking for that carbon copy. So
I don't know. I think because the buffs are also much closer to the lane and in that central location, as opposed to how we saw in Monolith. Monolith, they were away from out in the jungle with the fog wall, everything like that. In you're going to be able to take down your warden and turn around and see the enemies taking down their warden. I really do think that the buff placement is going to encourage, and I said it a while back, I think it's going to encourage the mid lane and the jungle to have a very unique relationship. And we can talk about that more when we go over the jungle POC, but I see that as more of an encouraging thing because, the mid lane and the jungle have always had a very unique relationship, that back in Monolith, when as soon as you got the green buff, you look to gank mid, that's just kind of how you did it. And I think we will continue to see that with those buff placements. Let's say you're playing Rampage in the jungle, right? And, your mid lane, because these buffs are going to be harder to kill than the bugs were. So you're playing Rampage and you just kind of hide in the jungle and then throw a rock and boom, you get that buff, you know, something like that. So I definitely see outplay potential, out buff potential. I just see a relationship between the mid lane and the jungler being much more important, not just with the buff secures, with other things as well. I don't know. I think it will be a good, interesting mechanic. But yeah, again, how you were talking about, they're on that raised platform. You know, someone like Chimera who doesn't have a jump really, he's not going to be able to just jump up there and grab it like someone like Rampage could. Or, you know, Grux might be able to, if you're up there attacking it and he smash and grabs and just jerks you right off that platform. You know,
right.
So it's definitely going to need some testing, things like that. But I don't see it as a bad thing. It's just a change. It's definitely a change that we haven't seen.
So here's a question from my new brain. Do you think, because they kind of made a point of mentioning in that POC video that they would be useful for not only mid lane, but for everybody? Do you think that's what they were talking about, the jungle? Or do you think they're trying to, with it being in this central location, are they trying to encourage team fights, like by going after the buffs, or is that not a thing?
Buffs are useful for anybody that picks them up always.
Right.
So I think that was more kind of the thing. Is
what
like,
they were pointing out.
If you're playing Gideon and you go pick up the sustain buff in the solo lane, that's helpful for you. You know, it's got different ranges of helpfulness, but I think that was just more of a general statement, as if you secure a gold buff at all, you're going to be better than you were.
You're buffed.
Right. And I think it was kind of just that blanket statement type thing.
Gotcha.
There were some things in the second video that I think were just overall good, and I actually kind of missed them. The tower damage, I didn't even notice they said anything about it till I watched your video, Mandy. The towers are going to increase in health and armor as the game goes on, and they have additive damage. The longer you're under a tower, the harder that tower is going to hit. I think that's great. I don't think
super excited.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. I can't complain at all.
Yeah, I think that was a big complaint of mine, that people would just tower dive for kills, and it was like there needs to be something that discourages that, and I think that's kind of what they're going for with some of those changes. So I think
tower diving is just always going to be a part of any MOBA, and
definitely
it should be a thing, but you should be punished heavily when you mess up.
Right.
Because
in Paragon, perfect. I would be running around that tower with somebody chasing me around, and they're getting zapped over and over by the tower, but it's doing jack shit to them. It's just tickling them.
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck is this tower even here?
Exactly.
You know, one thing, like, I liked green buff. Don't get me wrong. I think green buff was okay, but the problem with green buff is if you were playing someone like Chimera, you got to kill at level 3 when you got green buff, period. You know, you go to mid lane, ambush the guy, run through the tower, let the tower blow up your buff while you're beating the snot out of the guy in front of you. When it blows up, they're dead. You're going to turn around and walk away at almost full health because it was all green buff. So I think that's going to be a big discouragement for tower diving, because green buff is gone. The new green buff that's in the jungle, that's not an overshield like it was. So I think that's also, since we're talking about, tower diving, I think that's going to be a big discouragement to tower diving, is just the absence of an overshield. So
also in the second POC, they teased some other game modes, which seems like all of these games kind of want to have more than one game mode, which Paragon always had the Conquest, if you will, the 5v5 standard MOBA. So I think, again, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I don't think.
I don't either.
Having like a 3v3 or maybe even a 1v1 where you can settle your differences with some asshole.
Yeah, I personally will probably never play it. I played a year of Smite so far, and I've played 2 joust matches, I've played 2 duels, and I've played like 3 the other match. Everything else has been Conquest. That's what I like playing. That's what I play. So I'm personally not going to play the other game modes probably, but that doesn't mean I don't want to see them. You know, more, you know, Arena is the #1 game mode in Smite, so why not add it into a game if people really enjoy it?
Yep.
So
let's move on to the POC number 3. This is where the shit really hit the fan. They started talking about the jungle and confused the fuck out of a lot of people. So so they had the camp's damage types in different groups and weird different camps. They had 15 different jungle minions and 10 unique camps, and stacking camps, which is a kind of a MOBA, you know, normal thing. The 2 jungle guardians, ember collectors, and the channeling mini game. Woo! Let's see, the remnants, which is the kind of like Fangtooth, pretty much. And then the prime, which I really like their design for the prime pit. And then they had all their little prime buff mechanics.
Yeah,
I didn't think there was much
stages
wrong with the prime stuff, but there was a lot of things that were kind of confusing and unnecessary, I think, with a lot of the jungle stuff. Let's start off with these different camps and damage types and groups. What's you guys interpretation of that?
So I think this was the video that where Mandy was this was the one where you were like, whoa, my brain's going haywire.
Yes.
And I gotta say, I'm the same way. You know, I've spent a lot more time with Paragon than you did, and I'm still going, what? You know, so
that makes me feel better.
So I think the different jungle camps with the random spawns. Now, this is the other thing that I was saying. I think we might see the strengthening between the jungle and the mid lane or your mage's relationship, because let's say you're playing jungle and it's, hey, you know, the physical damage resistant camp. You ping your mid lane, hey guy, come over here, help me out. He comes over there, hits him with the R2000, walks away. So I think that could encourage play between, you know, again, your mid lane and your jungle. But
that's a good point.
Randomness is never fun in a game that's all about strategy, is the way I see it. I don't.
That's an excellent point.
You know, if you're playing a game of chess, you know, you don't want you know, every once in a while one of your characters gets super powered and hey, instantly kill somebody, something like that. You know, that might be a bad example, but you don't want randomness in a game that's about structure. And you know, you look, okay, I've got 10 items, they have 3 items, I should be able to beat them. You know, it's all about knowing things, and when there's so many unknowns, that I think that's a big problem. I don't like that at all, and I really don't think anybody else likes that. I have had somebody tell me, hey, you should go watch Sylphan's videos, he explains everything more. But why should I watch 2 POC videos?
Yeah, why didn't they just explain it better to begin with?
Right. Again, and again, this is all being tested, and so even though Sylphan might be explaining it better, it you know, again, it's just an idea that's kind of floating around. So I don't know. I've heard many things. You know, in the actual POC video, they say 4 camps are going to spawn in randomly. And then there's 2 neutral camps. Well, they're on each side of the map. There's 16 different spawn locations. If 4 spawn in at a time, that's a total of 8. So that means 4 camps are going to be empty, or are 4 camps going to be neutral spawn camps, and the other ones are going to be this random damage camp? Like there's just so many questions that popped up in my mind. And again, you know, people are, hey, you can go watch other people's videos. Well, again, watching other people's videos are just giving you ideas that they have. I would have definitely liked it to be a lot more clear when watching the official video over it.
We can't not talk about the Ember Collector mini game.
Yeah,
like I kind of feel bad about this because somebody had that idea and thought this is a great idea that everybody's going to love, and then we as a community took just a giant collective crap right on their heart.
I never even thought of that.
I feel like the mom with Step Brothers, like, what you did to that Ember Collector was horrible. However, you boys are very creative. It's a neat little idea, but nobody
yeah.
fucking liked it. I feel so bad for the person that came up with
It
that.
just wasn't the right fit, I don't think. But
I know the feeling. I've come up
A
with
for
videos.
effort.
I've done videos that I thought, oh, everybody's going to think this is hilarious. Then everybody's like, what the fuck is this?
I don't. Again, I don't want to play a random game that has mini games inside of it. I want a MOBA. I want a third person 3D MOBA.
I don't see how there'd be time for it.
No, I don't either.
Well, I think because you remember back in the day when the harvesters were there, you'd sit there for like 15 seconds just going, and slowly get. So I can see like, hey, you have something to do while you're sitting there waiting, but I can see that as a casual stance maybe. But if you want to like constantly be in action for that 15 seconds you're standing there waiting, check the minimap. Start, try to engage with your teammates and going, hey, I don't see the jungler. Do y'all know where he is? Maybe I can go gank somewhere. Instead of using that time to focus on a mini game that's giving you extra gold for clicking buttons, maybe use that time to better strategize and come up with an attack plan to win the game instead of, that's just kind of the way I see it. I don't see it as anything helpful towards the main goal of the game. I mean, again, that's just kind of how I see it, though.
I'm still just thinking about the poor guy who came up with that idea.
So the remnants pretty much is kind of like Fangtooth, except it's sort of a random buff. It's pretty cool. Yeah. I really got no complaints with it.
I think there'll definitely need to be some testing with there's one remnant that they suggested might have a dot effect when damaging heroes.
Black buff.
And in that being a permanent thing, that also doubles if you get prime. That might be a big deal, as well as I really like the idea of the remnants changing, where you play this game and the first 4 of them that show up are all movement speed, and the next game you have 10 of them show up and not a single one is movement speed. I think that type of randomness is okay because it's not affecting the gameplay in the same sense of random spawns in the jungle. It's affecting the gameplay in you still have to go and secure the remnant. You still have to do these things. You just now have different tools. So I think the randomness in that I definitely want to try it.
Yeah. I just kind of hope that there's a way to know before you even go in what buff you're going to get. But
and we'll also have to see.
It really doesn't matter that much, really.
We'll also have to see, because they do talk about stacking camps. Are you going to be able to stack remnants? Or if one remnant spawned in and the next timer goes by, does a new one spawn in, or do we get the same one? Do you have to take one out before another one will spawn in?
I didn't even think of that. That would be cool as fuck.
There's several different
things.
You
could have 3 again. Oh, we are 3. We are 3 raptors.
Yeah, they are good old 3. But yeah, we'll definitely have to see.
So probably the biggest news in that one was they're bringing back Prime dunking. Woo! Everybody cheer. If you like it or not, cheer. Yeah. Then with the Prime dunking, they also brought in some new buffs, some new stuff that actually didn't kind of go along with the way Prime worked in Legacy. But Prime dunking's back, and what do you guys think?
I'm a fan. I like the way that you get a buff, and if you want to give it to your team, you can. I think there's complete trolling things available. There's definitely going to be a lot of trolling with the Prime buff the way it is now. But again, you can, if everybody on your team's doing bad, just give it to the one guy doing good, and that will help your team out. Or I even thought maybe, let's say y'all get into a team fight for Prime and 2 of y'all go down. Well, maybe you can secure Prime, hold the buff for just you until everybody spawns in, and then use it. And now everybody has the prime buff for 30 seconds or so. So I think there's definitely going to be a lot of game-changing things done with prime, and I definitely I'm a huge fan of how they're handling prime. Mandy?
I'm excited to experience it for the first time because I only played Monolith, so I can't like criticize, the way they're presenting it in the video because I have no idea what it's like, other than what I've heard from ye old Paragon players. But I'm just excited to experience it because that's one thing I've always heard is like, and just how apeshit everybody went when it was announced. So I was like, okay, I'm on board. Let's see what happens.
I think the main thing, no matter what they do with the buffs, according to the prime buff, even if they don't even allow dunking it, the main thing I like about it is that it drops the buff on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no more just sniping it with Murdoch from afar or shooting through a wall. You actually have to get in there and get your hands dirty if you're going to steal that buff.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that a lot. I thought that was a little, it felt terrible when you were the team that worked so hard to get to work on Orb Prime, and then Countess fucking throws some shit through the wall and takes it from you.
Definitely.
It's like, God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of the things about Paragon that I think kind of went a little south. Took a little bit out of the players' hands.
Right.
So let's move on. So the fourth POC proof of concept video, they had the introduced individual scaling by class, like tanks will scale in armor more than attack damage, that sort of thing. They said that all 38 heroes will be added. They're just going to kind of work on them one at a time. So I imagine not in the alpha, they won't have all 38 heroes, but they do have plans to introduce all of them. The hero passives, each hero will have a passive. Let's see. The ability focuses, kind of being able to level up a certain ability. And the core powers, that's what they called it. It's the core powers, which is what they're calling their battle spells or relics or what have you. And yeah, I think that's about it. So the individual scaling, what do you guys think?
I'm happy for it. You go ahead.
I hated that they took it away, so I'm gonna like that it's back. It sounds awesome. It adds character to each one of the heroes. I don't see anything negative about it, and I think there is going to be a gap. It is going to create a gap between a lower level player or a new player towards a mid to higher level player. That gap's there is going to be much more of a learning curve, because if you're building all energy damage on Murdoch, you're not going to do very well. But I see it as a positive thing.
Yeah, overall it's positive. I think as I mentioned before, it kind of dissuades some of the goofier builds, which I think the goofier builds are fun and necessary for people to have fun. But I mean, I don't think it dissuades it so much that people aren't still going to do dumb shit just for the hell of doing dumb shit in the game.
Just for the thrill of it.
No, the hero passives, I really like that. The original Legacy Paragon, each hero had a passive. They couldn't balance them out though. Hopefully, Metabuff will actually be able to balance out all of these hero passives.
I hope so. I'm a big fan of the hero passives. I think some of them, in Smite, some passives are completely useless and some are very, very good. So it's going to take a lot of balancing because we've never had things like that. We did have a couple of the examples of the passives, like where Muriel, once her shield goes away, she then gives you extra protections. We had the one with Twin Blast where his basic attack stacked a movement speed increase. Both of those I don't like. I think those are both, absolutely game-changing things. So we'll have to see about that. But yeah, I think passives are definitely something that we need to explore.
Mandy, what do you think about it? You never really had dealt with passives, did you?
Yeah, that was another thing I didn't get to experience from Legacy, but it sounds like such a good idea. I'm kind of surprised it ever went away, honestly. But yeah, I do have to agree with Pirate that the two examples they gave, specifically Twin Blast, I don't think were great examples. But I mean, as long as they're able to kind of do what Epic didn't, then I think we should be okay. You know, as long as they're going to put in the work that it's going to take to balance them.
Right.
Well, along with the Twin Blast passive, they also introduced that they're going to tweak some of the heroics, with Twin Blast heroic being able to convert that movement speed into attack speed when he wants to. I think that's a good idea because both incarnations of Twin Blast's ultimate never really were great. If you know what I mean, it just wasn't a whole lot going on with his ultimates. I think even this incarnation, there's not that much going on with it. It's just an attack speed increase, really.
Yeah.
To me, though, Twin Blast's ultimate, his first variation was terrible, but his second variation was, it had the longest range in the game. It was really meant to pick off that guy running away from you. Twin Blast always had the furthest range of anybody, with, I guess, the exception of Sparrow's piercing shot. Twin Blast's grenades were crazy far. He was a big... He was a big, he was a really big, ranged burst damage dealer. And they kind of changed that with his rework when they got rid of his triple shot. There was a lot of his burst damage right there. Add this slowed to his grenades. But again, yeah, his ultimate, like, the range on it was insane. So you could pick off those people that were running away. If you just used your ultimate right on somebody with full health, it probably wouldn't even do half damage to him. His ultimate was a finisher, not a killer. Just like, Sparrow's ultimate, it was more of like, you're controlling this entire area, hitting everybody. And Murdoch's ultimate finished people off. You didn't ult somebody and then start basic attacking them. So I always thought they were very unique ultimates with the three, and I didn't necessarily have the problem with it, but again, the way Twin Blast, the way it sounds is, okay, he's going to be able to run around really far. We've already seen him jump into the moon, so he's going to have insane attack speed compared to the other ones. And then when he wants to do more damage to you, hit a button and boom, now his bullets do 3 times the amount of damage they do. That doesn't sound fun and enjoyable to me. Again, there's a lot of testing that needs to be done, but I am definitely against that passive. Adding more movement speed to the fastest ADC seems silly to me.
Yeah, I think, we kind of get down into the weeds talking about the individual ultimates. I think the biggest takeaway from that is that they are adjusting hero abilities to better suit their map.
Right.
But I just think...
we're diving way too deep into just an
we're
idea.
going a little bit.
But that's kind of on them, though. They should have provided a better example than Twin Blast. I mean, they did have Howitzer, and that was a big complaint about people, is that it took so long for his ultimate to come into play. So now they changed that so that it'll be a little bit easier to hit people with, a little bit harder to escape with.
And again, I've got a lot of things like our stun's going to take him out of his ultimate, or he's going to turn into the biggest zoner in the game with 2 giant AOE circles. Him flying up in the air was used like crazy by everybody as an escape. That's not going to be a thing anymore. So I think just that little change is completely changing how you play Howitzer. And he's going to have a fuel gauge. So again, we're nitpicking, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's really all we have to talk about is those 3 heroes. So
now next is the ability focuses, which is like a questing talent that you see in some MOBAs, where at the beginning you pick an ability focus that will help you either increase your damage or increase your mobility or increase something about your hero. But you'll be able to pick between 2 different abilities, and then you'll have kind of a set of requirements that you have to reach in order to increase the efficacy of your abilities. So I think this is really cool. This is what I was talking about. They're really trying to make the experience your own. Like the way I play Twin Blast, I might want to do the grenades. The way you play Twin Blast, you may want to do the movement speed. I think it's kind of a cool concept. Again, it's going to be very hard to balance for them. Hopefully they are up to task.
Yeah, I ability focuses are one of those things that I think it's a really cool idea, and I don't really have an opinion on it until I can play with it. Kind of that simple. I think it's a cool idea. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I don't want it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say. What about
Do
you?
you have anything, Mandy?
I kind of feel exactly the same way. It sounds like such a cool idea. We'll see what happens when it gets here, you know?
Yeah. Because that brings us to core powers. I know Pirate doesn't like relics, but Mandy, we were talking about this a little bit. How would you feel about having a blink for Sparrow?
I would
just right off the bat.
I would love it because she had nothing. Like I couldn't get away from Chimera if I caught myself in a bad situation. So I would love it. Yeah. I know Pirate kind of said from the beginning he didn't like the idea of the core powers. I'm excited for him. It's almost the same as how I feel about the ability focuses. Sounds cool. We'll see how it works, you know?
And yeah, I hate him. Hate him.
Yeah.
And you even just said it'd be cool to have an escape from Chimera. If you have Blink on, you're not going to be able to escape from Chimera because it'll just dash you. As soon as you get hit, you're on a cooldown with Blink. It's not going to work. If they make it where you can Blink always, that's going to be completely broken.
Yeah, no, they'll definitely not.
Again, Paragon always had active cards. You just couldn't get them till mid-game. If you wanted them, you had to choose, Blink Shot. That was on Sparrow, or no, that Blink Shot was not on Sparrow, was it? No, it but they did have just the neutral Blink card that you could put on Sparrow if you wanted to.
Which I always did.
Yeah, and so you could do that. You just didn't have it at the beginning of the game,
right?
And I do. I think relics encourage people to play very, very recklessly, and get that early game kill. You've got the enemy getting down to half health in mid lane. Back off of him, blink into him, basic, boom, hit him with another ability, he's dead. So it turns the game into this very burst. If everybody's, if every mid lane's going to have blink, I don't know. Free blink is not fun to me. I don't think it's fun gameplay. But again, I'm just one person.
I like it. I like it because it gives you a chance to either shore up your weaknesses or to increase your strengths. It'll be available to everyone. Again, it'll be hard to balance. I think some of the core powers will be far stronger on certain heroes than other heroes. That's something they're going to have to keep an eye on. But overall, my opinion is I'm all for it. Any MOBAs I've played that had this sort of battle spells, relics sort of thing, I've always enjoyed them. And you don't have to spend your points on that blink card if you just get it for free at the start.
God, I think that's a bad
idea. So let's move on to the fifth proof of concept, which is where they talked about their item shop and economy. The artifact shop, I should say. They're calling them artifacts. So they had the artifact shop with the 3-tier system thing going on. They had discipline stones, consumables on another tab, which I don't think anybody's going to complain about. The freedom to build incorrectly. I'm reading off the list Pirate made. The freedom to build incorrectly. I love that. And they had the disciplines and affinities. And the disciplines kind of are the affinities. And then I think that's pretty much it. Then they had the stat breakdown for everything, the different stats that they're going to have. So let's start with this 3-tier system item shop, which I don't care for. I think you guys probably have a different opinion.
So, the entire item shop, it really looks like to me it's a mix between a traditional item shop, which is every other MOBA except Paragon, and Paragon's card system, where you have, you've got these tiers that go up, and in a traditional item shop, you buy, T1 boots, then T2 boots, and then you have options between your tier 3 boots. Let's say Smite. And you see tier 1 boots are 6% movement speed, tier 2 boots are 10 power and 12% movement speed, tier 3 boots are 40 power and 18 movement speed and like a handful of mana or something. So you see this huge jump between tier 1 and tier 3, which we're kind of seeing that with the 3 power versus the, what was it, 36 power? Something like that on the Crying Hand Cannon and the Atomic Explosion or whatever it was. So we do see that jump, but it's not a set path, because you will be able to build, you know, your Crying Hand Cannon and then your jungle, Heart of the Jungle, and which will limit you from building a Discipline Stone. That's why I said it. You have the freedom to build incorrectly. And in Smite, you can't upgrade, you know, tier 1 boots with Charged Morningstar, which is, you know, the tier 2 of the Morningstar tree. So, you know, yeah, you have the freedom to build however you want. And if you're bad at the game, you're going to build poorly and get out-itemed by the enemy team. If you're bad at the game but know how to build correctly, you're going to have a huge advantage over someone that's bad at the game and doesn't know how to build. So it's not just a limit of you're no longer saying you're saying items have more importance over being able to play well, and I just don't like that. But I think if they just remove the whole discipline stones are set to, you must have 3 items in the same discipline to get the stone. If they remove that, hey, it'd be great. But again, if this is one of those things that I think we'll have to actually get our hands on it to play it, because do you fully understand how this item shop is going to work? Because I sure don't. So,
Mandy, how do you feel about it?
I definitely, it's a little bit hazy for me, and I don't know if that's, you know, just me being more of a noob to Paragon, but I don't know. It was like when I was watching the POC, they would say something and I would be like, "Oh, cool," and then, you know, it was like, I don't know if I'm just not understanding correctly. One thing that I did like was that everything's going to be like just right. Well, I guess I have a little bit of mixed feelings about it, that everything is available to everybody right off the bat. I think that's cool, but at the same time, it was kind of fun in Paragon to
collect cards.
Things, and so that, I don't know, I guess I have a little bit of mixed feelings about that.
Yeah, I everything being you know, it's kind of, to me, the way I'm seeing the how the disciplines work, I almost want to say, why have disciplines? You know, just completely take disciplines out. You have the tier 3 system. You know, you build tier 2, tier 3, and then boom, you can put on any discipline stone you want. It doesn't matter. That's kind of the way I see it. If everybody's going to have all 5 disciplines available at a time, if you don't have to pick 2 or you know, if you're not limited at all, why have them? You know, it seems like a layer of complexity that is only going to hurt new high-level players. The whole point of being a pro, right, is you don't make mistakes. Or even just a high-level player. A high-level player does not make mistakes. They're going to know how to build correctly. Low-level players do not. So that system, the whole discipline system, is only going to hurt people that don't know how to play the game. And why have it that way? That's just kind of the way I see it.
I don't know. I kind of went back and forth on this. My initial impressions was that it was stupid, and then just talking to you, Pirate, you brought up, like, even with the card system, you that was actually one card with several items linked to it, because I thought it was kind of dumb that you had so many items, like 18 items. But with the Paragon's card system, you kind of had the same thing. It was just limited to what items you could stack into another item. So I was like, okay, well, I guess it's like that. And then I realized Paragon's card system was kind of fucking stupid too. Like, why do all that? Why not just have a traditional item shop where you upgrade each item? It works so well, and I think it would work. I think that would be the best way to go with any of these games, with Metabuff and Core included. I really just, they need to stop trying to innovate and just go with what works in some instances. I think the economy and card shop is one of those instances. Innovate elsewhere.
I I don't want the card system to die because I really liked it. You know, the 6-card system. Hated the 3-card system. But again, I think there were issues with it. Especially when it was locked to 2 different affinities. You know, that's why I never liked Sparrow. I didn't like Sparrow because she didn't have Chaos, and everybody else, you know, all the Murdoch and Twin Blast both had Chaos. They could build Madstone gems and, you know, own earlier than Sparrow could.
Fury or Chaos?
Fury or Chaos. I think they're the same thing, right?
Yeah.
They changed them. But, you know, yeah, so I didn't like it in certain aspects, but you didn't have this big spike. You know, there wasn't a huge spike between a T1 and, or, you know, there's an absolute massive spike between a T1 item and a T3 item. But in Paragon, when you had a 3-point card, the difference between a 3-point card and a 6-point card, which, you know, would give you that max out and give you that bonus, was not that much. You know, you're talking 18 points in power plus a bonus. You know, on an Adamant Edge, you know, yeah, it's 18 powers worth of upgrades. You know, which again, I think correlate to how core system is. You know, if you have all 3 T3 items on, or tier 1, 2, 2, and 3 items on, you're at 52 power, I think. And in Core, or in Paragon, if you had a 10-point Adamant Edge, you're at 56 power. You know, so I don't know. I could see going both ways, but again, I think we're reinventing the wheel in a certain aspect as well.
Yeah. Speaking of the affinities, they're going to have disciplines in Core. Came out in the 5th proof of concept here, which are pretty much just like affinities. But the disciplines are specific to the class that you play. So there's going to be certain items that are for tanking, certain items that are for mages, certain items for junglers, that sort of thing. And that's how you unlock your discipline stone in your item system. They named them some really dumb shit, which I'm not a fan of. But yeah, it's basically another way to kind of encourage people to stay in their lane and play their role, which isn't a bad thing, I guess.
Yeah, I don't see, you know, I don't see having structure as a bad thing. And again, but the whole, you have the freedom to do whatever you want, but this is the right way. You can do it wrong all you want, but this is the right way. I don't like that. And again, you know, that might be a very casual way of thinking about it. But again, you know, casual players are what grow the game. And I think coming up with a needlessly mind-boggling system is just bad. And I think the entire discipline thing could be go away. Don't call them discipline stones, call them bonuses, and boom. It's going to be more friendly player, less confusing for everybody, and just a better system in general.
Yep. I think we probably just skip over the different attributes, because it was really just standard MOBA stuff, energy pin, physical
you know,
pin.
The only couple that we have there was one that's healing and shield bonus. That's a new thing. True damage didn't really happen in Paragon. That's another emblem or icon that we have. And then there was one more, but yeah, it's basically standard MOBA stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even talk about that in my breakdown video because I was like, that's MOBA stuff.
It's pretty standard stuff.
Speaking of pretty standard stuff, the proof of concept number 6, I think it was the least interesting of the proof of concepts. However, it was the most well done. It was they changed the name in this one to presentation of concept. The first 5 were presentations of concept. The 6th one was an actual proof of concept. The dude went through, laid out, here's what we thought was wrong with the other games. Here's how we're fixing it. Here's the reason that we're fixing it. And we're going to show you the proof to back up our reasoning. It was an actual proof of concept, but in the end, all it was it's a customizable UI, which is cool.
Yeah, you know, it was what, like a 12-minute video, and I seriously think it could have been a picture of the HUD and then a caption that says it's fully customizable. And have that up for about 10 seconds and then a black screen for the rest of the 12 minutes. I really think that, you know, when you know, I think it's really cool how they broke down and said, this is why we're doing these things. But at the end of the day, if I don't like what you have and have the freedom to change it to what I do like,
yeah, you just want to change it.
I'm just going to change it. All the research and everything that you've done on it is great. I'm glad you're doing that. But at the same time, I'm going to do it the way I want. So
who's going to be unhappy about something that they can completely customize themselves?
I think that just wraps it up perfectly. You can fully customize the HUD. This is what we're going with, and these are the reasons why.
They should have had the weatherman from Family Guy do the POC. Like,
it's gonna be like this.
What's up with the UI? It's customizable. That could have been it.
Ollie, what's his name? Ollie something? Ollie Jenkins or something like that.
All right, so that's all the proof of concepts. We're doing things a little differently. This was actually pre-recorded, sorry guys, but we're going to jump in now with the chat now that the video is kind of over. Get you guys' impression on Core's proof of concept and hang out with y'all. But before we go, we have another sponsor ad. This one is for Gamer's Choice adult diapers, engineered to hold 2 liters of Mountain Dew and a full quart of Taco Bell. When the digital call to arms is far louder than the call of nature, reach for Gamer's Choice adult diapers.
This
Wearing
needs
them
to
right
be a
now.
thing. This needs to be a thing. I cannot tell you how inconvenient get up and pee when I'm in the middle of the
Well, now you no longer have to with Gamer's Choice adult diapers. All right, great show, everybody.
You heard it here first.
We'll be hanging out with you guys after this.